Good morning, everyone. This is Charlotte, and we are chatting in cars. It is a podcast where I pick out random topics from my, well, not so random considering it's a biased study, really, from my little baggie of preconstructed topics. And we discuss them at length, often with me going on a tangent. It is 7:20 in the morning. I'm driving to work, so you'll hear beeping. You'll also hear me swearing because I'm going to be swearing at people as they drive badly, most likely. There is a disclaimer at the start. If you don't want to hear swearing, I absolutely encourage you to turn it off now. You don't have to. No one's going to make you do anything. If you want to keep hearing about me doing weird stuff with my life, carry on. There are some sensitive topics in this podcast, this series of podcasts, really, because these all reflect things that have happened to me. It's been a weird 37 years, I have to say. If you would like to know anything more about it, yes, listen. If not, turn it off now. You can go find something nice to listen to. The topic for today is anorexia, because, yes, I was an anorexic, or I'm a recovered anorexic, and yes, you can say recovered because it is like an addiction. I first really gave into my anorexia when I was about 16, 17, which I hear is pretty average for most girls who are recipients of the gift that is, the shit gift of anorexia. I don't think it's a gift, really. I'm just taking the piss. Sorry, just pulling out. So, what did my anorexia start with? Now, bearing in mind the context in which I was raised, high stress environment, poverty, all these things are not good for cognitive or mental abilities and development in anyone, let alone teenage girls. I had a pretty average, I say body type or, approach to health, I would say, growing up until about 8. I know that's pretty early. When I was about 8, my dad decided to really give into his Peter Pan syndrome, mental breakdown, whatever. Started kicking off being a berserker. That was stress in itself. My mum took over, and my mum is very much a controlling person. Well, she was. Now she tries to use guilt, but it doesn't work because, obvious reasons. No foundation to that structure, so you can't really use it later on in life with guilt. So everything was controlled. Everything was her way or, punishment. So when it came to food, and they weren't feeding me properly. Quite frankly, they weren't feeding me properly. They were, but I don't know if they had really a chance to. I'm still trying to see the good side of this kind of thing, because everything was controlled. And what they did give me was not good for me because it made me sick. So, it was a lot of things that I just couldn't handle. So when I, couldn't get enough food, I used to steal food. And I used to steal food a lot. And when I was about 12, I was quite round. I started really putting on weight because I was stealing a lot of food, and I needed to get whatever I could. You do it for survival. When I was 16, I started developing the eating disorder anorexia, where I just would not eat at all. And it was the only thing I had control over. Everything else, my mum would, manipulate or abuse me with, or it's like I was already going through exams. My parents were constantly fighting with each other or with us as kids. I had a boyfriend who was cheating on me at the time. I was only, 16. Who cheats on a 16-year-old kid? I don't know. Of which my parents didn't know about. So, whoops. I do tend to keep a lot of stuff to myself. So, stress at school, stress at home, stress in my love life. The only thing I could control in that complete state of instability, because I was going through my exams at the time as well, stress at school, was my eating. And some part of me just said, we're not doing this. Which is odd, because right now I can't stop myself eating. I'm like a Labrador. But at this point, it was the only thing I could control, so I stopped eating. The problem with not eating at the time was my really low self-esteem led to people pleasing or seeking approval from others. I wasn't getting any kind of affection at home. So I was looking to people at school at the time for some kind of acceptance or, you know, bolstering any kind of self-esteem I had. If anyone liked me, it was good. So when boys started noticing me losing weight and, you know, seemingly coming across attractive, it just encouraged me to do it. So I was not eating. I was living on a packet of noodles a day. I would just not eat during the day, and I would come home from school. I'd have a packet of noodles. That's about 300 calories. That's nothing. I don't encourage that. It's fucked up. It fucks up your organs, your brain, and everything. So anyone who's listening to this who thinks, oh, good, I can get tips on how to not eat, don't fucking do it. It is not good for you. I don't encourage those pro-anorexia bullshit sites. It is someone trying to kill you inadvertently. It's like, it's the person who makes the site is supporting your demise, essentially. It's not good for you. Just don't listen to those fuckheads. Really, it's not good for you. They have not got your best interests at heart. I can't stand those fuckers. I really can't. And at the time, this was a time when, you know, girls were in mass media encouraged to be stick thin. You know, it's also not good for you. So all the girls in my age group were like, I'm going to be skinny as possible, and you know, it set me off. The girls wanted me to be skinny. Well, I say the girls. I wasn't popular, so, you know, it wasn't like I was trying to fit into some social group. It was mainly the boys, actually. I suppose it's something to do with some kind of parental issues where I just wasn't getting the affection I needed, so I went looking elsewhere, which meant ultimately that I would abuse myself by not eating to gain approval. Partly that. Partly I was stressed. I didn't want to eat. I mean, my brother's the opposite. If he's stressed, he eats. Which is why he's quite, you know, portly. Which I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, I don't know how much you have to overeat before your organs start shutting down, like with anorexia, but I couldn't bring myself to nourish myself. I wasn't looking at how I could self-care myself, and it's probably because I was only a teenager. I wasn't looking at my own self-worth in itself. I mean, at the time I was doing all right with school as well, despite all the crap going on. So I couldn't recognize my own self-worth in that result. I kept looking for external validation. I kept looking for other people's approval. It's like, oh, if I get a bit skinnier, it's okay, because then they'll like me more, or more boys will look at me, or I'll piss off the popular girls. I don't know. I don't know. I had this war going on with the popular girls. I was not popular. I did not like them. Bearing in mind they were, you know, druggy sluts, so it's not someone I would count as a good role model. And I swear to God they didn't like me, so fuck them. So anyway, I stopped eating. I think it was my pancreas. I went to the doctors at one point because I was like 49 kilos. I'm 5'4". So 49 kilos, I was stick thin. You could see my spine and back, my spine and my ribs. And it was horrible. It looked like I crawled out of Auschwitz. It was horrible. And I've got pictures of it still in my year 12 formal dress. The ball, you know, everybody goes to the prom. Well, hopefully people get a chance to. And I was, you know, rail thin, and it wasn't healthy, and I felt like shit, and my brain was constantly off. I couldn't think straight, and I was so emotional all the fucking time. I was just crying, and my parents were trying to, in their lack of intelligence, emotional intelligence, I should say, lack of emotional intelligence way, they were trying to force me to eat. It's like, I don't know if they were just, you know, scared that they get in trouble for me dying, or I don't know. But they were forcing me, and it wasn't a gentle approach. It was a, you will eat, you will do this. And my mum is just not one for softness. And it didn't help. It made it worse, because then I would, you know, being a teenager, I'm like, fuck you, I'm not going to do it anyway just because you said so. So it set up a whole clusterfuck of defiance. I still have a semi-streak of defiance. It's worrying. You give me an ultimatum, I'm instantly going to turn against you. So it's like just... But then again, that's a good way to control me, I expect. So now I have to rethink that approach. Reverse psychology. But you know, it's just, it didn't help. I wish they could have found a better way. I mean, at one point, my parents even took me to like a naturopath, and I'm going, well, this is odd. Because they thought it was something to do with nutrition. Like maybe if you got naturopath, it would make you feel better or some shit like that. I'm going, so I took all these tablets, and there were shitloads of tablets, all of which were foul. And it didn't help. It didn't help because what I was looking for wasn't to be healthy. It wasn't to, you know, recognize the value in my body. It was social, well, partly social approval. I'm just looking for fucking affection and love at some point. Because I couldn't get it at home. I just couldn't. So if they'd maybe chosen to use the soft approach and try to understand how their fucking stupid parenting had contributed to it, and try to understand what I was going through at the time, you know, exams, not good social skills. I mean, I already have autism, so it's like I'm not good at social skills as it is. So when I'm facing fucked up social experiences that I'm supposed to know what to do or have some kind of, you know, backup plan to react behaviorally, it's like I'm already at a loss. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing half the time, and I just go selective mute. So what they found me, sorry, I'm stuttering again, my brain's going. What I was finding I was doing, I was just isolating myself in my room, and I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to be alone. And I would sit in my room and I'd just draw, or I'd, you know, read, or I didn't want anything to fucking do with anyone at that point. I was so fed up with what was going on in the external. I put myself in my bubble. I went hermit mode and I just stopped eating. I mean, this was at the same time that I, you know, tried to kill myself with a shitload of alcohol. I was not right in the head. I'm still not particularly right in the head, but you know, this time it's more workable. It's not self-harming. And I was self-harming at the time. I already got trichotillomania, which is not the hair-pulling one, but the skin-picking one, which apparently, you know, is pretty common as an anxiety disorder thing. Or I was just sitting there cutting myself, which is not good for you. I am covered in a lot of scars because of that. Not like really bad scars that, you know, you get from like razor blades and shit like that. That was something that was going around the school as well, like girls suddenly becoming, you know, suicidal and shit. I can't think why, in a low SES area. So, the circumstances aren't exactly in our fucking favour, are they? So, yeah. So anyway, so what did I find? I went skeletal. I was constantly cold. My brain was addled all the time. I'm surprised I passed my exams at all. I did all right. I didn't do great. I sucked at maths. My English was amazing, apparently. I got second highest in the school, so I'm like, sweet. But everything else was pretty average. So somehow I managed to get that shit together. Although I didn't want to be there, and I didn't want anything. I didn't want to do anything. I used to spend a lot of my time, like I was supposed to be, my mum was supposed to be picking me up after school. Okay, this is pretty standard, I'm hoping. Or like kids will walk home from school. Now I know my mum was working late. Not working really. But she would leave me there till like 4. So I used to say, fuck this, and I used to go to the beach. She used to say, well, go and wait outside the school, sit on the sign, stay there until I get you. And like she would pick me up at like 4:30. If she picked me up. When my younger sister came to the high school, she would also we would walk home together. I finished at 2:30 for high school. So it was a fair whack of time, and I used to just go, fuck this, and go to the beach. I used to take my then boyfriend, who cheated on me, 16-year-old, fucking idiot, some dickhole called Daniel. And we used to just fuck off to the beach. I mean, I never got into like drugs and shit like that, so that was pretty much as rebellious as I got, besides, you know, eating disorders. It was a very odd kind of time period. It was more like something that you needed to survive. My friends, like my one friend, my really one friend, I think I have about 5 close friends through my entire life, which is substantial considering it's 37. I'm 37 years old. My best friend, who I've known since year 2, Andrew, he was shocked at what had happened, because I came to school one time and it was after school, so we're like, yeah, so we're going home or we're doing whatever. And I ended up taking my t-shirt off because I had a singlet underneath because like 40-degree heat. And he was shocked at how skinny I had got. Like, he was shocked, and he's known me since I was 7. So when he started saying, you're a bit too skinny, I started going, okay. But I sort of shrugged it off at the time because I'm like, eh. But my arms were like stick thin and my skin went to shit. It was all stress on the body that my body just couldn't handle. My pancreas shut down, according to my doctor. I'm sitting there going, I'm pretty sure I'd die if that happened. But the nutrients weren't getting in and the calories weren't getting in. So everything was fuzzy and lightheaded. And I used to nearly pass out. It was not good. And I just isolated. I didn't want to be around people. So essentially some part of my brain was sitting there saying, fuck it, let's just die. So it is a form of self-harm, and it's addicting as well. I mean, for what attention you're getting, even though it's negative attention, you could misconstrue it as affection. Someone actually giving a fuck or showing concern. Even if it's negative. Even if it's, you know, oh my God, you're dying. Or my parents were forcing me to eat and shit like that. It's addicting, because if you've not had it growing up, and then suddenly your parents give a fuck about you, even if it's negative trauma-bonded affection, it keeps you going, because if I keep doing this, then they'll actually give a fuck about me. So it's a very weird, alienating experience. If my parents had raised me properly, and I had to re-raise myself after I got out of there. I moved out at 19. I had to re-raise myself because I had to look at what they were doing and saying, this doesn't work. This is not good for me. I'm not doing this. And part of that came with the eating disorder as well, because I looked at how they reacted to my eating disorder, which was not nurturing at all, or supportive, or considerate, or anything. It was, we're going to solve this by force. And my mum would repeatedly make threats. If you don't eat, I'm going to shove things down your throat. I'm going to get a filter, you know, like the force feed they used to do in torture, you know? You hear about these stories about, you know, hunger strikes and things like that, and then they force feed them with like funnels and shit, or syringes and shit. She was threatening to do that. So this nurturing environment never existed. Even when I was suffering, she was still trying to, you know, put the boot to it. He was like, you will do this. It's like, no, it's the only thing she ever understood to do. Is like, things get solved by force. You know, one of her favorite saying is, don't care was made to care. It's like, yeah, but which way? You can't force someone to do something who already wants to die. It's like, you're just encouraging it. Someone who's sitting there in their fucking depression, scatterbrained, lack of calorie high, who's already hates themselves, who already has low self-esteem, who gets off on someone, you know, giving them the slightest bit of attention, whether it's negative or what, to try and boost one semblance of serotonin. And then you encourage violence on them, or aggression, or abuse, to get them to do, they're gonna lap it up. It's like, fuck it, go for it, kill me now, I don't care. It's like, and I was already suicidal at the time. I was like, fuck it. So, my parents just did not know what the fuck to do. And I don't know how common sense didn't factor into that at all. Because I look back at now and I said, if you'd have just been nice, things would have got better. But the real turning point was when I moved out. So I was like heavy anorexic from 16 to about 19. After 19, I moved out with my now ex-husband into a sort of share home. And it was a struggle because, yeah, you still have that pressure that you want to, you know, any affection. I trauma bonded with my ex-husband. That's a given. It's like I wanted his approval so bad that I threw myself under the bus. It was codependency. I know that much. But, you know, I was hoping that what I couldn't get at home, I could get from him. And even then I failed. So, and it's okay to fail. It's all right to fail. Sometimes we're just wrong. But the fact that I held in there for like 16 years was probably the biggest failing. Because I'm like, it'll get better, it's okay. And he was an overt nut, so that was not healthy. But my parents had set me up for that growing up. Trauma bonding. It's always been there in my life, in one way or another. I'm going to get treated like shit. I'm going to, try to appease this abuser. And if I can appease the abuser, they'll give me that breadcrumb of affection. And it worked with my parents, and it worked with my ex-husband, and it worked partly with my ex-boyfriend, until I went, fuck this, I've seen this before. And I got angry. I'm like, I couldn't believe that he was going to do it. But anorexia is part of that. These are the band-aid solutions we have to dealing with the love and affection and support you have at home. Some kids will do it for attention, I get that. But what kind of attention? And you need to ask what what kind of attention they're asking for. Is it an ego boost? Or is it a genuine starving of affection? What kind of environment are they growing up in? If they're growing up in, you can look around as a parent and you can say, all right, this is an okay environment. This is a stable environment. They've got siblings who love and support them. They've got, hopefully 2 parents, right? It's a struggle with 1 parent, but I can acknowledge that. But 2 parents who love and support them, and they still turn around and they say, then I would question something going on the inside of their brain. It's like, you need to take that kid to a psych at that point, because if you've created this nurturing environment and the kid still goes towards an eating disorder, I think it's something internal at that point. Mine was not really internal so much as it was external. The factors around me fucked me up. And then it turned internal. It gave me fierce independence, which is a good thing, I think. People say, oh, that's a trauma response. I'm like, whoa, I don't know. I've never done drugs. I'm not, not that fucked in the head that I ruined my life. Despite shit happening to me, I kept, pulling through. I overcame my anorexia. Every now and again, it pops up and you think, oh, fucking hell. But, I'm getting later on in life and things like that just don't seem to matter anymore. And I'm single now, and I went through this phase, because I used to be married to a personal trainer as well, and he was all body beautiful and all that shit. But he was a real narcissist with it, and it was horrible. So living with him turned me against the vanity of, trying to appease people or get their attention or approval by being aesthetically pleasing. Because he was just so selfish and so self-absorbed, and I thought, look, another anti-role model. I just don't want to do this either. So now if I go to the gym, it's to deal with my PTS, which is good because I can agitate it while I'm doing the weights and stuff like that. Like the heavier weights, I find the symptoms come out a bit stronger, and then I can de-elevate it. So I agitate it with the heavy weights, and then I pull down and I calm it. So when I get stressed out, the symptoms don't show up. Like if I'm in the classroom and kids are fucking kicking off, and they always do, because they're little bastards for relief teachers. I love them, but they're bastards. They think, she's only here for a day. We can treat her like shit. But what they don't realize is I keep coming back. But when I'm about to, stick a head through the wall, as my parents would have done, but you can't do that to someone else's kid. It's good to, it comes as a second nature of the reflexes that I've learned at the gym, to just chill and calm that down, because I've already elevated it in a safe space, what I would consider a safe space of the gym, and I've already de-elevated, so now it's just like a reflex now. So if I get agitated in the classroom or at work or out in social circumstances, I can de-elevate it naturally and automatically. There are still times when I'm driving, I get fucking pissed. There are still times when I have to deal with idiots, or something goes wrong, or my temper flares. But I'm not reacting the same way where where my body kicks off and I start, screaming and shit. Which I think is good, is a move forward. The gym has helped me a lot with anorexia as well. I'm more interested in strength these days than aesthetics. I do strength training, I do the weights. And to cool down, I just go on the treadmill with a book. For an hour, I just wander for an hour on the treadmill with a book. And it's great because it calms the mind, it helps me think, and I'm sitting there listening to my music while I'm reading, while I'm thinking. And it's just, you sort your brain out. It gives you a space to sort your brain out. My ex-husband was a personal trainer. And so he had this huge push that I had to look a certain way. Again, not healthy. Because if he's a personal trainer, then of course he must look like he's married to a personal trainer, right? And we've all got to look, you know, a certain way, very athletic. And I'm not particularly athletic. I'm more into like history and knowledge. I'm more cerebral, really. I'll go for a wander, but I'm not, you know, doing mountain climbers while I'm doing it. It's like, I just want to chill, man. And I'm pretty laid back. I like it that way. But he was all about it, you know. I mean, he looked like the Captain America guy, but I'm like, yeah, but at what cost? Because he was a real arsehole. It was gym Nazi. You had to do it his way. It was control and it was trauma bonding. And of course you had to train a certain way and you had to eat certain ways and you had to do this. And he was the boss and that was it. And I'm sitting there going, well, okay, if you show me affection, I'll do it. And it's terrible because it's codependency and it's trauma bonding and it's not good for you at all, because when he left, and he left before I did. I might have physically left after him, but he checked out because he was chasing people while we were married. When I finally physically left him, I was lost. I didn't have, nutrition-wise as well, and body-wise, I didn't know what to do. But I remembered some of the things he taught me, drilled into me. And I looked at what he had done and I'm like, okay, so how can this help me? Because I was damned if I was going to get fat because of this prick. He would love that. It's like, oh, I left and look at what happened to her. Because I was like, fuck you, guy. It's like, I can't believe, first of all, that you did this to me. And second of all, you expect me to die in your absence. It's like, you little fucker. I'm sitting there going, I know I'm going to be stressed. These are the circumstances. I know stress leads to me not eating. So I'm going to eat, of course. But I want to be more selective about what I eat. And that, you know, I want to be selective about what I do with my body. Okay, I don't want to get fat, right, okay. I don't want to get rail thin, okay. So what can I do? And I thought, well, I'm getting quite old and I've heard that strength training is okay. Okay, so I took up strength training. And to counterbalance the pressure and stress I have from, you know, growing muscles and doing movements, I also took up Pilates and yoga. So, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, I was doing weights in the morning. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I was doing yoga Pilates. And it worked out for me. It cleared my mind. I worried about me and what I was doing to myself. I looked for approval in me instead of looking for approval in other people. And I stopped giving a fuck what I looked like. If I was fat, if I was thin, I just stopped giving a fuck. Because as long as I was able to energetically keep doing what I wanted to do, I was fine. And at the time I was also, you know, trying to get myself out of debt. So there was all that extra stress around me of me trying to sort out the absolute shitstorm that occurred 2018 when my life collapsed. I knew anorexia would be triggered. I knew it. And I knew that if I allowed it to overtake, that it would kill me. Because I'm getting older now. I was 33 when all that shit happened. And your body will only hold on for so long. It's one thing to be anorexic at 16 when your body's still young. But at 37 when your organs are already fucked up, you know, and then to expect to still survive it and keep going. And yeah, yes, I knew I wasn't going to do well. I wasn't going to survive very well. And I would run myself down and I would just eventually collapse. So I'm like, fuck you, guy. I'm not letting you do that to me. You want to have a life crisis and run off with some whore, that's you. I'm not. I'm getting my shit together. And to be honest, it was the best thing I ever did, because in his absence, I not only did better, I fucking flourished. I'm like, I didn't have anyone controlling me. I didn't have anyone telling me that I'm wrong, being critical or anything like that. So I could experiment and I could just get on with my life. I had the freedom to actually operate. Because while I was married, he customized me. And while I was living with my parents, they customized me. I never got to know myself. I never got to know what I valued or what I found interesting or attractive. I mean, my body was just it was just a version of what he wanted me to be. And to be honest, I found it weird in the end, because what he created me to be, he left because he didn't find it attractive. It's like, what the fuck? You made this. Why aren't you finding it attractive? I did what he requested. I have my hair in a certain way. I have my weight in a certain way. I was wearing what he wanted me to wear. I didn't wear makeup because he didn't like it. I was doing everything he asked me to do, and it was never good enough. And in the end, he still left. And I'm like, what the fuck? At that point, it's not me, it's him. It's like, you created this and you still don't like it. So I'm like, fuck you, guy. It's fuck off. So when I got my freedom at 33, I died and I was reborn. I am now what I want myself to be. I'm not thin, I'm not fat, I'm not anything. I don't really have the anorexia ruling my life like it used to, because I'm not looking for anyone's approval. I've got my own self-approval. And that's something I re-emphasize all the time. It's like when I see people pleasers or I meet up with people pleasers, I keep saying, don't look for their approval, look for your own approval. If you're happy with the way you're doing things, that's the only thing that fucking counts at this point, because you're the one that has to live with the consequences. If I'd have kept up my anorexia, if I'd kept going with that, I would have to live with the fallout of my organs failing, my life fucking up, not having any kind of social, friends or anything because I isolated myself. All these things that come with it. For the sake of trying to people please or to, gain affection from people who are not going to fucking give it to you anyway, or approval. It's like all the people who were in high school that wanted me to be thin are now fat, because we all hit near enough middle age, and we just had kids and gave up. Except me, I'm doing all right. Yeah. My parents are still going on their fucking stupid rants, and I never had their approval, so I stopped wanting their approval. My ex-husband ditched me. My ex-boyfriend ditched me. It's like, you're never going to get that fucking approval externally. It's no external validation. You need to find it internally. If you're okay with what you're doing, then fuck it, do it. As long as it's not harming anyone, that should be all that matters. As long as it's constructive. Anorexia is not constructive at all. It will tear you apart. It will stunt your growth. It stunted my growth. I was not developing. I'm still not developing as well as I should have biologically because of the malnutrition I gave myself. I still have issues with digestion. I still get a lot of problems with the weight. Like anything to do with food is just not good for me. I still have trigger foods where I just won't eat. It's a lot of mental stuff. But what's worse is when people in your surround support what essentially is your demise. These are not your friends. These are not your friends. These are your enemies. And you should treat anorexia as an enemy as well. It took me ages to get angry with it. I had to isolate it from myself because at that point it was a part of me. I am anorexia. I had to isolate myself with it, and it became this foreign entity to me. And I got fucking angry with it. I'm like, you are ruining my fucking life. You are doing this. I stopped blaming myself. I put it out in the external. I'm going, this is not who I am. This is not what I am. This is not what I was born to be. And I fucking got angry with it, and I fought with it for years. It is a mental disorder. It is a mental disorder that will fuck you up to the point where you will physically die. Well, not like you really have a choice. You could metaphysically die if you, I don't know. We could go into that. That's a different podcast. Your soul is crushed. That too. Your mental abilities fucked up. It will attack. It is an attack. It's not your friend. It is not a tool to get somewhere. It is not something you will ever get real approval from. It fucks you up. And I've got these girls, even my 12-year-old girls, because I teach pre-primary. No, I don't. I teach primary, but I also do pre-primary. My year 7s, year 6s, they're 12 and they're getting suspiciously anal about their food and stuff like that, and what people think of them. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God. First of all, you're like a fucking stick as it is. And they don't eat their lunch. That bugs the shit out of me. I just find these whole sandwiches like chucked in the bin. I'm going, whose lunch is this? Like, so-and-so's didn't eat their lunch. I'm like, am I going to have to call your parents? Because you're not eating. It's like, I didn't want it. I'm not hungry. It's like, everyone's fucking hungry. I'm fucking hungry looking at this. Go and eat it. I mean, if I can get to it before they chuck it in the bin, I'll be like, go and eat your food. And I don't want to. It's like, do it. It's not the best approach, but for this point, I'm like, I know where this is coming from. I have a suspicion I know where this is coming from. What are you doing, boss? But I'm scared for them because I know what they've come through. And some people take these eating disorders up into adult life. There are a few celebrities I look at that I'm going, this isn't fucking right. But they also get praised for it. It's like, oh, you're so thin. You're like model thin. I'm going, the models are fucking eating disorders, mate. It's like, that's not supposed to be, that's not encourageable. That's not good. And you look at some of these celebrities that are rail thin and they've managed to conceive as well. It's like, how the fuck did you get 3 kids out of a body that is essentially dying? I don't know how. Your cycle would have been fucked up from the start. So I'm pretty convinced these are like test tube babies at this point. I'm like, you did not bear that. You did not conceive. I'm in denial. It's like, I know your body is ravaged. There's no way in hell that thing is fertile. I don't believe. I don't believe. You know, it's crazy. I know how much it fucked me up, and I didn't get halfway as thin or as skinny to these girls. And I'm not body shaming. Well, fuck it. Maybe I should be body shaming. You know, it's like when they glorify it, it bugs the shit out of me because it's like they're in denial and they don't want anyone to call them on their bullshit. It's like, we're not allowed to body shame. It's like, I will fucking body shame. I've been in that circumstances. Fuck you. Eat something. It's like, no, but I don't want you to hurt my feelings. It's like, I don't give a fuck if I hurt your feelings. I'm pointing out reality to you. Go and eat something. I don't give a fuck if you want someone's social approval or something like that. Mental disorders are just, they're terrible. It's like, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you don't highlight it, if you don't talk about it, point it out, that a person might be, you know, sick, then they die. If you do point it out, you've hurt their feelings. Oh God, I'm offended. Fuck off. It's like, be offended, but at least you'll survive. You know, it's like, body shaming. And it goes the other way for morbidly obese people as well. I'm sorry. It's the same mentality. It's like, I don't want to be body shamed. I don't want to be called on my bullshit. So you're going to be called on your bullshit. This is now life-threatening. Don't want to be body shamed. It might hurt my feelings. Fuck your feelings. You are dying. Dying. All right. Right to die. Fine. Go for it. But at least make it quick, you know. It's like, what the fuck? Don't draw it out looking for sympathy. If you're going to commit. I probably shouldn't be encouraging that. But I'm just so tired of the perpetual victim mentality and whinge that goes on. That, you know, is encouraged. Because we can't actually, you know, say anything bad about it because it's body shaming. If someone had properly called me on my bullshit, provided a nurturing environment to me, supported me, and cut the crap, and not taken like an aggressive, angry approach to it, I probably would have cut out anorexia sooner. I wouldn't have the organ damage I have now. You know, it's utter bullshit. It's like, and I was a teenager at the time, so it's living in denial as well, because I didn't want to think that anything was wrong with me. And that can be, you know, that's perspective can be transferred not only from anorexics and bulimics to also morbid obese people. It's that you don't want to be called wrong. That's the thing, isn't it? It's an ego thing. It's like, I don't want to lose face, that I might have been wrong, so I'm going to say you're body shaming. It's like, well, fuck it, I'll body shame. I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm tired of tolerating shit that I know is wrong. You can't body shame. I fucking can, and I just did. So grow up. No. What it ultimately means is I've created a problem and I don't want to admit I've created a problem. And I'm sorry for that, because none of us want to lose face. I never want to admit that I had an eating disorder when I was a teenager. I never wanted to admit that I was attacking myself and allowing this thing to encompass my entire reality, to the point where it was controlling everything I did. But I was 16. I'm 37 now. We grow out of these things, okay? We grow out of them. We mature, I hope. You know, you can do this. Don't be silly. We're not being, you know, immature about this. Oh my God, I could rant out about that all day. Anyway, no, I'm not going to. But the thing to take away from this is, because I'm sitting outside my school now, don't let other people's views, control what you should be doing. If you look at this from a logical perspective, if you are trying to be skinny to get approval, I don't know, maybe you're trying to go the other way. Maybe you're trying to be large to get approval, which is possible. Bandwagons are jumpable. The fat movement, don't even go there. Anyway, just to the extent where it's such an extreme that you are killing yourself, then it's a fail. It is okay to fail, but at the same time, to stay with that fail is just not good for you. You don't want to do that. Look for self-approval. Look for, I mean, within reason, you should be looking for like a moderate balance of health. It should be less aesthetics and more functionality. If you are healthy, your organs work, nothing is damaged, that should be what we're looking for. If you're doing it to, you know, be perceived as attractive, so you can be a clothes horse and you can wear designer clothes and, you know, size nothing, then you're going to fail. You're going to kill yourself. And the people who support this and encourage this are not your friends, they're your enemies. Because they would love to eliminate the competition. You will eventually die, and then they've won. So you need to take it, look at it more critically than just saying, oh, you're just being mean to me because it's like, no, I've been there. And I know anyone that encouraged me probably did not have my best interests at heart. They just didn't give a fuck. They were pushing their own agenda. I was just a means to encourage them to do theirs. So I'm going to have to leave it there because it is 8:01 and I have to go in my classroom. So I'm hoping you have a very healthy day. Healthy. And I mean healthy in a moderate sense. I don't mean, you know, go crazy about nutrition and stuff like that. Well, I will only eat clean foods. And, you know, that was another one of my things. Like I went through this weird healthy thing where anything that wasn't, you know, a vegetable or something like that, water, was just, I wouldn't eat it because no. So there is an extreme with that nutrition-wise as well. I want you to have a chill day. It's Tuesday. I will do another podcast after this on the way home. Hopefully with a different topic. Maybe a less morbid topic, I hope so. Maybe I'll talk about flowers or candy or something nice. Have a great day and I'll see you on the way back.
Space, night, death, darkness, not being there, is an essential component of being. You don't have the one without the other, just as your buzzsaw has no